anytime you read a piece anywhere, a book or an SAT practice test, you're looking at essentially a piece of writing that has a couple things that will be the main structure, and then other details that will make that story what it is. And this is actually applicable to different kinds of reading abroad. There's always the main idea, the core of what that piece is supposed to be, and then everything else. So some of the structure, some of the things, elements that make up that structure is the main idea, the point of view of the narrator. You'll have supporting details that will be coming off of the main idea. So I suppose we can place that here right after supporting main ideas. And then you'll have other details. And these other details they work to embellish a story, but they can just be, they're a little bit lower than supporting details because they embellish the story, but they're not crucial to the main idea as such. So if we switch gears here and we work on a piece, this is a SAT practice test from a reading test. And one of the things that you'll notice here is when you see the questions right off the bat, you'll get questions about the narrator, you'll get questions about evidence on what someone might be feeling. There are inferences, but most of all, these are all part of the main idea. So if we start off here, our first question, which is the narrator of the passage can best be described as what? You have a couple options. A says one of Miss Spivey's former students. B, Miss Spivey's predecessor. C, an anonymous member of the community. And D, Miss Spivey herself. So there's a couple ways we can approach this. Whenever someone is talking about the narrator of the passage, something that you can understand immediately is whenever you're reading a piece of work, the narrator will be established immediately and more information will then be given after that. So for example, first of all, you'll know that this is in the first sentence or so, you will figure out that what kind of point of view this writing is written. So one of the first things that you read is Miss Grace Spivey arrived in Three-Step, Georgia in August 1938. She stepped off the train wearing a pair of thick-soled boots suitable for hiking, a navy blue dress, and a little white tam that rode the waves of her red hair at a gravity-defying angle. So what do we know from this immediately? What we know immediately is that this is not Miss Spivey herself, right? Miss Spivey would not be talking about herself as Miss Grace Spivey. So immediately we can cancel out Miss Spivey herself. Within the first two sentences, you will always figure out the point of view immediately. And then the question kind of goes a little bit beyond that. The narrator of the passage can best be described as, so first of all, when it comes to the narrator, you're looking at two things essentially. You're looking at the point of view, and then you're looking at what that narrator's role in the story is. So at one point, if you read the story, you'll realize that there are parts of the story that will tell you that the narrator is who they are. So if we look, for example, here on line 35, when my little brother Raffled asked what did she study at Barnyard College, Miss Spivey explained that Barnard, which she wrote on the blackboard, was the sister school of Columbia University, of which she expected we all had heard. It was there, she told us, in the midst of trying to find her true mission in life, that she wandered one afternoon into a lecture by the famous John Dewey, who was talking about his famous book, Democracy and Education. From that, you can immediately tell they're sitting in a classroom, there's a whiteboard in front of them, her brother is talking. Who could that be? Well, yeah, you could go off of a limb and say, well, this actually is a predecessor. But what is it most likely? It's someone who is one of Miss Spivey's former students. She's recalling what happened when Miss Spivey walked in the room, what she was like, the stories that she would tell. You're looking at someone who's talking about Miss Grace Spivey from the past tense. So what did we just establish here to recap? We established that a narrator of the passage is often, first of all, two things. One, it's the point of view, but two, it's what role does that narrator play? So you see that narrator was actively interacting with the character, Miss Grace Spivey, which is why this can't just be an anonymous member of the community. It could be, but from the clues that we get from the reading, it's A, not Miss Grace Spivey herself, but B, it's one of her former students. To quickly move on, let's go to the second question. It says, in the passage, Three-step is mainly presented as summer retreat for vacationers, B, small rural town, C, town that is home to a prominent university, and D, a comfortable suburb. Well, okay, this is part of obviously the main idea, the setting of the story. Where is this taking place and how is this place described? Right? So if we go here on around this area, like line 20, it says, we weren't no poorer than we'd ever been, and the citizens of Three Steps were in the mood for a little excitement. What do you think this is? So let's evaluate our options here. Again, a summer retreat for vacationers. Well, does this seem like a vacation place? If someone is talking about poverty and how they've always been poor, not really. A small rural town, okay, that seems like something. Town that is home to a prominent university. Well, if it's a hometown to a prominent university, it doesn't really make sense why they would be excited about a school teacher, right? And a comfortable suburb. Well, it doesn't seem like a comfortable suburb because in the story, you actually talk about how hot it is and everyone is like standing in their shorts. It's really hot. And this Spivey makes a comment about how hot it is. So it doesn't seem that the way that the writer presents this place doesn't, seem to remark on the comfortability of it. So obviously the best option here is a small rural town.